If you have the urge to draw some more. Sketch, and sketch some more. It'll never be perfect, so don't seek perfection. Just seek to get better at what you're doing. But all it takes is a piece of paper and a pencil. It's just going to continue to blossom and to grow as an artist. So there's ways in which we can satisfy that hunger to be creative. I'm Ron Husband, and I'm an instructor at New Masters Academy. Right now, we're filming a course on quick sketch, illustration, and animation and how they overlap. Quick sketch, illustration, and animation are concepts that overlap in the sense that you're looking for basic shapes, you're looking for balance, proportion, anatomy, these things that are universal and apply to quick sketch, animation, and illustration work. I think this course will be good for all educational levels, the beginner to the more seasoned animator, artist, illustrator, in the sense that there's basic shapes and concepts we need to all be reminded of or introduced to for the first time to help our growth as artists. And I think this course will help us to observe and be able to draw from life, both human and animal. The students should expect to learn from these courses our observation, our observational skills, being able to analyze action quickly and more efficiently based on basic principles of squash, stretch, uh, basic shapes of circles, squares, triangles, rectangles, and again, perspective and anatomy. I got into teaching by being asked by Disney Studios to explain animation to some elementary school students. And from there, it seemed to blossom into more opportunities to explain what I was doing to others. From the experience of being able to explain the basic concepts of animation to elementary school students, to more junior high school students, college students, and even professional artists. And from there, I started to teach in universities and being asked to come to workshops and do seminars. My experience as a teacher has opened up more opportunities to share the basic concepts of animation as well as illustration, as well as my quick sketching to a broader audience. I've been fortunate enough to be asked to participate in workshops, seminars in foreign countries, as well as here in the United States. And again, it's given me great opportunities to be introduced to artists and fellow artists and to be able to share my philosophy on art, as well as take in other uh, aspects and techniques that are used throughout the artistic community. I've had an opportunity to be invited to Japan to teach a workshop. While there, I had the opportunity to visit the publishers who translated my book, Quick Sketching with Ron Husband, into the Japanese language, as well as Quick Sketching being translated into the Chinese language to serve the Asian markets. I recognized my talent in art early. At 4 years old, I remember taking wax paper and putting it over comic book covers and copying that. And that became a realization of a lifelong love affair with the talent I've been blessed with to be able to put down on paper, literally communicate with others through drawn pictures, storytelling through line. I was so blessed to be able to put in 38 years at the Disney Studios as animator and um, character artist for Disney publication. I didn't come in knowing anything about animation. I knew nothing about animation and what an animator was or did. I had gone to high school and college as an athlete. I received a football scholarship to the University of Las Vegas coming out of Citrus Junior College and still really not knowing what I wanted to do as an artist. I wanted to be a commercial artist doing book and magazine illustration, and that was sort of my goal at the time. But coming out of the university and coming back to Southern California, where I was born and raised, there are no publications that would utilize a rookie um, uh, artist seeking to be a commercial artist, because all the books and magazines are published in Chicago, New York area. So that's where I should have been. But coming back home to Southern California with a wife and two kids, you had to put bread on the table. I had to make a living. So I took a job at Honeywell and doing block diagrams and flow charts, which is not a very creative for a person who want to do creative things. And decided that if I wanted to do more creative things, it had to be around creative people in a creative environment. So I took a class at night at Art Center, in, located in downtown Los Angeles at the time. And my instructor happened to be a gentleman by the name of Sam McKim. And Mr. McKim was Imagineer for Disney. And he told the class one night about a trainee program that they had started in approximately 1971. This was 1974. And I took him up on his information, and he set up an interview with Eric Larson, who was head of the trainee program at the studio at the time. They had instituted this trainee program um, because in 1937, when they made Snow White, they had young animators, Frank Thomas, Ollie Johnson, Milt Kahl, John Lounsbury, and now it's 1974, and they still have Frank Thomas, Ollie Johnson, Milt Kahl, John Lounsbury, and others. And they had done all this great animation for these many, many years, but they hadn't really trained anybody to come along and take over when these guys retired or left. So these are older gentlemen, and so they had decided to take advantage of the seasoned animators to be able to pass on their knowledge of animation to a younger crop of young artists. And my initial interview with Eric Larson, one of the uh, literally great animators at the studio, he was head of the training department, and my portfolio was geared towards commercial art. And I even threw in a, a picture of Pinocchio, just because. And Eric looked at my portfolio and he says, that's okay, Ron, but what we want to see is quick sketches. And I had not included any quick sketches in my portfolio, but I had been quick sketching since high school. And I went home and got 3 sketchbooks and turned them in to the guard gate and waiting for a call from Eric. And literally within the week, I got a call saying I could start into the trainee program anytime I wanted. I had been quick sketching since high school, as I said. My high school art teacher, Miss Dorothy Clemens, when I was a junior in high school, I remember it so well. She had encouraged the class to carry a sketchbook and do quick sketches of human and animals. Because shortly after she had encouraged us to carry a sketchbook, I got kicked out of art class. So because she taught all 4 years of art, that was it for me. So, but I did take her advice, and literally why I'm sitting here today is because of my quick sketches, which got me into the studio on potential. They saw that I could capture capture movement and action in my sketches. I knew nothing about animation, so it depended on how well I could absorb the animation principles: squash, stretch, drawing on model, looking for basic shapes, looking for um, balance and proportion in my drawings for animation. So those concepts were taught by Eric Larson for approximately a 4-week period. And during that 4 weeks, literally for me, it was a total learning experience because every day was something new. I knew nothing about animation going in the door, but because the call went out worldwide, literally, to bring in young, talented artists of various uh, backgrounds. Uh, my background again was just that I could draw. They brought in there was people there who had various levels of animation experience. They had brought into the program different artists who had various levels of artistic experience. Uh, they in that class that I was with was Ben Keane, who had come in from CalArts. They have a great animation program there. Like myself, I was at the far end of the spectrum with no animation experience. And there was, again, there were those there who had, again, various levels of animation and art experience. And within that 4 week window, we were to create a small, rough pencil test which was to be reviewed by seasoned animators as well as the staff there. And at the end of 4 weeks, you either sink or swim. There was no guarantee going into the trainee program that you were going to be permanently hired. You're just a trainee trying to learn the basic concepts of animation. And I passed my first test after that 4 weeks. And by passing the first test, probably one out of every two people would pass the test because you came in as a trainee. You had 4 weeks, regardless of where you started. From that start point, you had 4 weeks to complete a test. And my test was accepted, and I was extended another 4 weeks to do another test, basically to put the concepts and principles that I had learned in the first test into another test. And my test was very, very rough and very, very unsophisticated. And there was those there who had more animation experience, and their test showed that. And so, but you were graded on how well you were able to absorb the concepts of animation. The animation training took place on the second floor of the animation building on the studio lot. And once I had passed my second test, I was sent downstairs on the first floor where they were actually working on a production. It was the Rescuers at the time, and my roommate was Glenn Keane, and we shared a room on the D wing, which they put a great many of us young trainees or trainees now officially hired by the studio as in-betweeners. And that's how I got my start in animation as an in-betweener, doing in-betweens for Frank Thomas. I said Glenn was my roommate, and he was doing in-betweens for Ollie Johnson. I literally learned my animation from Frank Thomas, one of the greats in animation history at the studio as well as the world. And Frank would give me little scenes that he had been given to animate. So on Rescuers, I did approximately 51 feet of animation on Rescuers. And in those days, you had to do 100 feet of animation to get screen credit. So by doing 51 feet on weekends and on breaks and, anytime I could squeeze in, because my primary 8-hour job was to do in-betweens for Frank Thomas and do my little scenes that he would give me on the side. And at the end of the production, I again had 51 feet, close, but no score, no screen credit. The next picture I worked on was uh, Pete's Dragon, doing in betweens, I believe, for Gary Goldman, and doing a little animation note that he gave me on the side, and another 50 some odd feet before production ended. Uh, but this time I was like an assistant animator. And then then the next production that I worked on was the small one. and on the small one, I hit my 100 feet goal, and I was promoted to an animator on the little short, the small one, and from there, we various productions I'm working on, and eventually worked my way into being a supervising animator on Hunchback of Notre Dame, Jolly the goat, and the elk on the Firebird sequence in in Fantasia 2000, and Dr. Sweet on uh, Atlantis: The Lost Empire. After 30 years in feature animation, I went over to publications department where I had the opportunity to work for 8 years. And the last project I worked on was Steamboat School, doing illustrations for a, um, a children's book that was written by Deborah Hopkinson, award-winning children's author, and actually, Steamboat School is still making waves. It was released in 2016, and it has won several awards, as well as even today, it's been included in um, the state of Missouri public broadcasting bicentennial documentary on their state, and they're going to include a piece on John Barry Meacham, who is the topic of Steamboat School. My first test as a trainee was goofy playing football. It's been said that you do best with things that you're familiar with. And being a ex-football player, I took that on and put Goofy in that role for my first short test. The second test was of this character who was dressed like Tinkerbell, and was walking away from the camera, and she had a parasol, which you couldn't see the top half of her torso. And as she walked away, there's Mr. Toad sitting on a brick wall, and he's looking at Tinkerbell saunter by, and so he whips out a looking glass, and he leans forward for a closer look, and the Tinkerbell character stops, and she turns around and puts her parasol down, and she's got the face of a frog. You know, but that was the test that got me hired as a uh, employee for in the feature animation department. It was never hard for me to be motivated in my artwork, my animation, or my illustration. I look at it as a talent, a gift from God to be able to draw and express myself in an artistic way. It's like if you give um, a toy to a child, if you're a parent or you're whoever is, you give a gift to a child, you give a toy to a child. That child's always playing with it. How does that make you feel? The fact that you've given something to someone who's making great use of it all the time. And in Chariots of Fire, there's a line in Chariots of Fire where Eric Little has been asked what motivates him. What motivates you to run? Why you run? And he says, when I run, I feel God's pleasure. And when I draw, I literally feel God's pleasure because the gift that He's given me, I'm using it. And when He sees me drawing pictures, He knows that it's something um, that I really appreciate it. And it doesn't take much for me to be motivated, because I'm always motivated. When you take a look at being able to communicate through drawing pictures and storytell, and I get a great pleasure out of in my illustration work when people look at my illustration work and without saying a word, there's a smile on their face. Without saying a word, they're looking and they look closer, and they're just sitting there. I can see the wheels turning in their brain as they're looking at a piece that I've done. I've done pieces for um, commissioned pieces of art for others, and upon presentation of those pieces of art, I've seen people literally cry because they've seen what they've imagined, and I brought it to life for them. Um, when people look at what um, Lion King or Beauty and the Beast, or that's my favorite picture. You did you worked on that. And you see the pleasure that people get out of the talent that I've been blessed with to be able to open the doors for others, and they get a real pleasure out of what I've done. My quick sketch book. I've seen some reviews on the quick sketch book, and I've been encouraged to draw more. It's something that's been encouragement to others. So I know that what I'm doing has a positive effect on the artistic lives of others. And even just looking at my book on quick sketching, I've heard people say that I'm not an artist, but I just I like looking at the pictures. And again, my illustration work, my animation. I've been blessed to be successful in 3 different categories, um, in my quick sketch book, and my illustrations, uh, award-winning illustrations, being in the sense that, I put them into competitions, and I've got ribbons and awards for my artistic work, my illustration work. So, being successful in 3 different categories in quick sketching, getting positive feedback. If you go on, say, Amazon, there's book reviews, reviewing the books that have been purchased, and reading the comments about quick sketching. It's positive. It's like 4 out of 5 stars. In my illustration work, being award-winning illustration work, and the success of Steamboat School, as well as the success of being putting my um, illustration work in competition and winning awards for there, which that goes back to when I was a junior in high school. I won a national award for my pen and ink work um, then, and it still continued. And then again, the working on some of the newer classics that have come out of Disney, Lion King, Beauty and the Beast, these pictures, Little Mermaid, which have done extremely well, and so in these categories, and I look at artists who have an animation background, who have done well in other categories, because learning basic animation principles help us to literally tell stories through drawing pictures. And in an illustration and a quick sketch, you're telling a story in a single drawing. In animation, you're telling a story in a series of drawings, but it's storytelling, it's communication. And looking at people who have come out of an animation background, who have done well in other categories. Uh, y- Look at Glenn Keane, who's one of the top animators ever, who's directing, and he's won an Academy Award in his directing. You got Tim Burton, who came through the same training program that I came through, and he's a top director. You got Henry Selick. You can go right on to the list, and Brad Bird. These people have animation backgrounds, and they've done well in other categories because they've got the basic principles of storytelling that come from uh, a background in animation. Alfred Hitchcock, Spielberg, you can Howard Hawks. These guys couldn't animate. They're doing great as directors, but they couldn't animate. You guys, Clean and Selick and Brad Bird. These guys can animate and they can direct. You've got Ellen Woodbury, who is uh, come from an animation background, and now she's doing stone sculpture, um, and winning awards for that. You know, and John Musker is one of the great animation directors, but he's also a caricaturist, and his caricatures are just tremendous. He can make a living doing caricatures. So I guess what I was be saying is that because of animation basics and learning those animation basics, you can be successful in other areas. I've never had any anxieties or worries about uh, having a career in art. I've heard people talk about, well, you need to get a career. That you need to be able to do something beside art, because art doesn't pay anything. Art is yeah, I never I knew I wanted to do something in art. Exactly what, I wasn't quite sure, um, and whether or not I could make a living doing art, it never really crossed my mind. You do the best you can with what you have, where you are, and that's one of the philosophy that I've tried to carry, is that, you're gonna be an artist, be the best artist you can be. You're gonna be a street sweeper, be the best street sweeper that there is. So wherever you're going to do, you got to put your heart in it. You got to put your soul into that. And I wanted to do something in art. Exactly what, I wasn't quite sure, but whatever it was, I was going to do my best to be good at it. And there's a lot of artists that have influenced me over the years, and I didn't start my appreciation of artists uh, until I started my career at Disney, where we were studying uh, various artists and what we could gain from them uh, to help us still tell the stories that we were telling through our animation work. Uh, Heinrich Klein or Klee was one I was introduced to by Eric Larson once he had seen my pen and ink work. Um, and looking at Bob McCall and Leroy Neiman. And in college, I was influenced by Bob McCall, Robert Reger, Norman Rockwell, and others who were doing a lot of illustrations for publications at the time. And so there was an influence there, not so much of trying to emulate them, but just seeing uh, that they were doing something that I wanted to do, and that was to uh, do illustrations for books and magazines. Uh, Moving on to my years at Disney, I was exposed to Heinrich Klee and his style, pen and ink, which I have been doing. Eric Larson shared a book with me about him, and on through the years, I've seen some artists that have really had more of an influence on me in the sense of my doing my illustration work. There is Henry Tanner, Augustus Savage, um, uh, Charles White. These artists have been a encouragement and inspiration to me as literally storytellers. With their art, the emotions that they've been able to capture. And there's a ton of artists that I could name. Uh, Rodin, where I had the opportunity to go to Paris and see some of his life size sculpture work. Picasso and Gauguin. You know, you can't ignore these giants in the field of art. Just to see what they've done and their influence. But following my creative passion in art, It's given me a greater appreciation of what has been done in the past, and looking at those artists who have really paved the way in painting and abstract and realistic drawing, cartoon work, um, illustration, um, gag cartoons. The whole gamut has been uh, an appreciation from my standpoint of what artists express themselves uh, through, and so I feel really um, encouraged by looking at the work of others, and to be in a position to where I can sort of pick little pieces of, oh, this artist, he's got a really good sense of color, and or this artist got a really good sense of showing emotion, and being able to harness all that, um, yeah, and I can't say steal what they do, but to just borrow the bits and pieces uh, to 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 be an influence on what I do. And it's been, really, really gratifying to see how artists through the centuries have risen to the surface in their portrayal of literally story. Because when you put things on paper, it's story, and so it's good to see um, others' interpretation of story. This course is designed to get you to focus on the basics, simplicity, how to find balance, proportion, perspective, and all comes from observation. So we're encouraging the young artists to observe, encouraging the young artists to put something on paper, uh, to encourage your young artists to literally draw more. Um, and again, to combine that drawing with drawing with a purpose. Why is that line there? Does it need to be there? Being discerning and somewhat editorial as to what you want to put down on paper, because what you put down on paper is a statement, and so you want to make that statement clear, concise, without confusion. And this course is designed to lead you toward that path of looking for basic shapes, simplicity, and analysis of what's taking place as you see action unfold before your very eyes. One of the positives about online education is that you have the opportunity to play back uh, and review several times concepts that you may or may not be totally familiar with or introduced to for the first time, as opposed to being in a class with the instructor who may or may not have time to go over uh, the concept that has been presented. Being a teacher myself, I know that I would take time uh, to try to answer your question, but sometimes the student forgets the question that they were going to ask, or there's just not enough time to do that. And sometimes, because maybe your personality would hinder you from asking the question, and sometimes we think, well, that's a dumb question. There's no such thing as a dumb question, because a dumb question is a question that never gets asked because you never get an answer. But through online teaching, you get a chance to run it back and sort of go through that one more time. One of the main emphasis on this course is observation, being able to observe human and animal movement and action, and to be able to analyze that action. What takes place when a person takes a walk, they take a step. How far is that step? How far are the feet apart in that step? What happens to the upper torso? What happens to the lower torso? We sort of take these things for granted when because we do them all the time. We walk, we bend over, we reach for things, and we don't really. pay that much attention to them, but to be able to visualize and see others doing it, and then to put that on paper, that in line. Uh, so observation is one of the main goals in this course. Being able to recognize basic shapes within objects, being able to recognize balance, proportion, perspectives, but literally having an eye of observation and becoming literally a people watcher, an animal watcher, to see exactly what's taking place in the human body in the sense that there's a muscle and skeletal structure underneath the skin, and there are no lines on the human body. It's folds of skin, that make up what we put down on paper as lines. But understanding those concepts. You don't have to be an animator to take this course. The animation principles of clarity, squash, stretch, um, balance, proportion, those are principles that are used in illustration because you want your drawing to be in balance, in proper proportion, in proper perspective, the silhouette value of each of your drawings, which translates into quick sketching, which is a drawing done quickly, a quick sketch with the emphasis on quick. And now those principles of balance, proportion, looking for basic shapes within the subject you're drawing, that has to be crystallized in a fractions of a second in quick sketching. So regardless of whether you're interested in sketching, quick sketching, you're interested in illustration, or you're interested in animation, these principles are universal and they apply to each one of the disciplines. Regardless of your artistic level, whether you're a novice, you're just getting into art, you're a young artist, you're a more seasoned artist, regardless of where you are, my encouragement is to just draw. I've met so many people who would tell me that once they find out I'm an artist, or they see me in a park setting, I'm sketching, and they say, "I used to draw. I used to I used to be an artist. I used to love to draw in high school. I used to love to draw as a kid." I would say to any artist, a young artist, in between or older artists, continue to draw. Um, draw some more. Don't ever give that up. You've got that artistic talent that you've been blessed with, or you just want to just pick up and just draw. Um, do that. Follow that urge to just draw, regardless of your age, um, regardless of whatever situation you're in. If you have the urge to draw. Draw some more. Sketch, and sketch some more. We'll never be um, perfect, so don't seek perfection. Just seek to get better at what you're doing. And this is the advice I would give you. Some of us have opportunities to go to school and to get formal art training, but all it takes is a piece of paper and a pencil. And you never want to hinder your uh, your artistic growth because just drawing with a pencil and a piece of paper is better than not drawing at all. It's just going to continue um, to blossom and to grow as an artist. And again, you want all the tools at your disposal to help that process along. There's, uh, when things open up, there's libraries to go to look at books. Online, there's a tremendous amount of art instruction. There's formal art instruction like New Masters Academy. So there's ways in which we can satisfy that hunger to uh, to be creative, and so take advantage of all the opportunities at your disposal. I'm Ryan Husband, and I am an instructor at New Masters Academy, and I'll be teaching a class entitled Quick Sketch, Illustration, and Animation.